In this video we are going to write some code for our UI main menu, learn a couple of cool shortcuts, and create this nice animation with DOTween. So let's get started. First, we are going to create a folder named scripts, and inside it we create a new script and call it UI main menu. Then, we attach this script to our main menu object. Inside the script we want to create 4 buttons corresponding to the ones from the UI design. We make them private and we are going to give them the serialize field attribute so that we can assign the buttons in the inspector. We also create 4 transforms for the button containers. Quick tip: you can select a part of your document and hit Ctrl H to bring up the replace tool. Then, you can just replace the keyword button semicolon with container semicolon and hit Alt A to replace all matches in the selection. Then, we apply this again to change the type from button to transform. And we change the button space with transform space. Then, we want to add listeners for on-click events. We create the wake function because in mono behavior this method will be called first, and here we add listeners for all our buttons. We are going to leave the methods empty for now, but we will come back later to add the actual logic. After that, we will create the onDestroyed method, which is called when the game object is destroyed, and here we are going to remove the listeners from our buttons. It's not actually required in this case, but it's a good practice to remove the listeners when the object is destroyed or when you don't need to listen for that events anymore. We also remove the not implemented exception from our generated classes. Back to the inspector, we can see in Unity that our UI main menu has the buttons and container fields visible, and we need to add the references to our objects. We can just drag our game objects to the corresponding fields. If we hit play, we can see that our main menu is a bit boring. But we can fix that with some UI animations. We need to go to the asset store and search for DOTween. There are 2 versions, a paid one and a free one. We are going with the free one, and don't worry, it still has tons of features. We click download, and after the asset is downloaded, we need to click on import. Once the asset is imported, a pop-up menu will show up, and there we need to press the setup DOTween, wait for it to load, and then hit apply, and we also need to press generate asymmetric def. In Unity, we create a new script and call it base behavior. Okay, so I want to keep this video as beginner friendly as possible, and I won't go into many technical details on the following script. If you guys are not experienced with coroutines, I will leave some links in the description, and maybe I will do a tutorial on them later on. We are going to create a method of type enumerator, which has an action and a float as parameters, and is going to invoke the action after the given amount of time passes. Then, we want to create a wrapper function that will have the same parameter types, and will start the invoke after time coroutine. So all this function does is to invoke the action after the given time passes. Okay, let's work on animating the buttons. First, we make our UI main menu derived from base behavior. Then, we create a new method and we call it Animate buttons. We want the buttons to be displayed one by one, with a small time delay between them. To do that, we are going to use our newly created method invoke. We are going to use a lambda function and call on the transform of each button a doScale with a scale 1 and a duration of 0.3 seconds. The lambda function is going to be called after an increasing delay for each button, so that our buttons will pop up one by one. Then, we need to set the scale for each button to 0 and call this method in awake. Let's test the animation in Unity. Okay, we can see that it's definitely an improvement from before, but I think that we can achieve even a better result with a bit more tweens. We are going to declare 2 lists. One list is of type button, and we are going to call it buttons, and the other one is of type sequence, and we name it animation sequence. In awake, we make sure to add our buttons to the list. Now let's go and create a new method. We name it animate button. For now, this method will receive an integer as a parameter, which is going to be the index of the button that we animate. If the animation sequence.count is less or equal to the index, we need to add a new sequence in our list. Otherwise, we need to make sure that we kill the sequence if it's playing, because we want to create a new DOTween sequence for that button. Okay, hold on for a second. What is DOTween sequence and why do we use it? Well, a DOTween sequence lets you chain more tweens, which can play one after another or at the same time, depending on the settings. It gives you a lot of features, and usually this is the way to go if you have more than one tween for the same object. You can also append intervals to your sequence to delay some tweens. Back to the code, we are going to store the animation sequence of index inside a variable, and we are going to do the same thing for the button. Then, we are going to append to the sequence the do scale with the same parameters as before, and after that we append a punch scale. A bit of info on the punch scale. It will punch the local scale of a transform towards the given size and then back to the starting one, as if it was connected to the starting size via an elastic. It has 4 parameters: the punch, which is the punch strength, duration, vibration, which indicates how much the punch will vibrate, and elasticity, which represents how much the vector will go beyond the starting size. We set the ease of the tween to be outsurg. Okay, let me briefly tell you about easing in DOTween. The easing will define the percentage of completeness. It will basically say how much percentage of the tween will be completed in the given percentage of time. The default is not linear, as some might think, but outquad. Our selected one is outsurg, which looks like this. As for the values for the punch scale, don't think that I came with these values from the first time. It was a process of trial and error, and you too have to play with them in order to find the effect that you are looking for. We add another parameter to our animate button function, which is going to be a float named delay. Then, we use it in prepend interval, which will delay the start of our sequence by that amount. Then, we delete the old invokes and we go and create a couple of variables for our initial delay and delay between buttons. I realized that we should probably make them constants, because we are not going to change the value anywhere in the code, and we also make sure to use the convention for constants, uppercase characters separated by underscores. In Animate Buttons function, we create a for loop for our buttons, and for each button in the loop, we set the local scale to 0, and we call Animate Button for the index I, and the delay that is the sum between the initial delay and delay between buttons multiplied by I. Okay, let's see how it looks. I think that the initial do scale is too slow. Let's change it to 0.1 seconds instead of 0.3. Now it looks better, but I think that we should do something with the title too. Back to code, we add a new serialized field of type canvas group and we name it title. Then, we create a new method named Animate Title, and here we set the alpha of the title to 0, and we add a do fade effect to opacity 1, duration 1.8 seconds, and the in_quint ease. Then, we call this method in awake. In Unity, you can see that we can't drag the title in UI main menu. That is because it doesn't have a canvas group component, so we add one. Then, we assign it in the UI main menu, and we hit play. This is the final effect. Let me know in the comments what you think about it and how you would improve it. If you liked this video, consider leaving a like and subscribing. If you have any questions, post them in the comments and I will make sure to answer them. See you next time.